Hello and welcome to the Awards Heaven podcast. I'm Charlie Bright.
I'm Rob Lufuria.
And I'm Tony Ruiz here on Earth.
Yeah,
And all of us on Earth, we are very happy to welcome another return guest here. You know him from the Next Best Picture website and Awards Watch, a man who gets around town, our good friend, my good friend, Danny Bayer. Dan, how are you?
Doing well. How are you, Charlie?
I'm doing just peachy.
that's good.
Usually I say that, when I use that term, I use it ironically, but no, I'm actually doing pretty good.
That's great.
Uh, we got a fun show for you today. We're going to be talking about the lineup for the 79th Cannes Film Festival, which was just announced yesterday. We're going to, and the reason we have Dan here is because Dan is in New York. He lives just off of Broadway, and he probably knows a bit more about what's been going on this season. So we could do a preview of the Tony Awards. And in recognition of that, our top five this week will be our top five favorite stage musicals. But first, let's talk about the lineup for the Cannes Film Festival. Was announced yesterday. I believe there are 21 films that are in official competition competing for the Palme d'Or. The jury president this year will be South Korean filmmaker Park Chan-wook. And two honorary palms will be given out, one to Barbara Streisand and one to Peter Jackson, which I think is
Wow.
that's a
Wow.
very interesting combo to put in there. But I'm curious as to what our initial reactions were to some of the films in the lineup. We got you got some regulars that are there, like Hirokazu Koreeda. And oh god, I'm always blanking when I'm writing.
Almodovar,
Yeah, Almodovar.
Pavlikovsky,
Manju usually premieres
Manju,
there.
Yeah, Manju. Yeah, usually has his
Murikritsa.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
we got an interesting. I think it's an interesting group of films that we have this year. Rob, I want to go to you first. What was your initial reaction when you saw this lineup?
well. Let me first say, Charlie, you wrote an amazing article, which is now published at the Substack. So everyone, please check it out. I'll link it in the in down below. Really good article. Thank you for doing that, Charles, because it was a really good opportunity for me to kind of figure out what was what. And maybe I'll have recency bias. Correct me if I'm wrong, but has it ever felt this stacked? Like really, there are so many heavy hitters this time. And I'm always excited about new Almodovar. And I'm also really interested, of course, in Asghar Farhadi's new film coming out too. So like, I don't know where to begin. I'm really excited about this. And of course, Cannes has always been such a great indicator, not just about the Oscar race, but just about what are the big heavy hitters in international features of the year. But I have noticed in the past few years, particularly because of the Oscars and their expansion of their membership to international voters, that the films that do really well at Cannes happen to also be doing even better at the Oscars. And so we're going to see some Oscar Best Picture nominees probably in this list, and that's very exciting. But yeah, again, great article. If you really want to understand what's going on, read this article by Charles.
Yeah, I mean, just to elaborate on that, it's very interesting because prior to, I want to say, like the mid 2010s, the expansion of the membership, you wouldn't usually the Palme d'Or wouldn't translate to a Best Picture, and maybe you'd get one or two movies of the official competition that would translate to the Oscars. Now it's usually at least two will get into Best Picture, and several others can be major players. Like we saw last year with The Secret Agent and Sentimental Value, were both big winners at the festival as well. And I think it's also just interesting that I, God damn it, my mind's just leaping on me. But Dan, I want to go to you next because you actually have been to Cannes, and so in addition to your just initial thoughts on this lineup, as to like what was that experience like? Because I'm sure a lot of us that's an experience that a lot of us are immensely jealous that you got to experience.
I am feeling similarly about the people who I know who are going this year. I am intensely jealous, especially after this lineup announced. Like, so new Ira Sachs, new Lasso Nemish, not on my radar at all. It crazy that they're even here. Um, we have Glenn Close
Yeah.
in a competition film at Cannes for the first time, directed by the two Javiers, who are the world's first drag race judges to have had a film premiere at the Cannes Film Festival.
I believe they're the first.
Yes.
I believe they're the first same-sex married couple to have a jointly directed film at the festival
All
ever.
right.
I don't think that's
So
ever happened.
so many firsts happening here. And
Wow.
like and then,
Huge.
like there's just so much cool stuff in competition. And then if you go beyond that, I mean, like, I people were predicting this, I did not dare to hope, but like the fact that Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, Jane Schoenbrun's third feature, is premiering at Cannes in Uncertain Regard is so fucking cool. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. That was the one that made me more jealous than anything of everyone going this year. I'm like, I'm so happy for you all that you get to see that at Cannes. It Look, the experience that I had when I was there was just like, it was like no other film festival I've ever been to. It I'm so glad that I did it last year when I it just felt like everything was right in the air for me to do it at that time. Like, it just felt like the perfect time in my life to have done it. And
Mm.
it lived up to every amazing thing that I've heard about it over the years. It really is like those theaters. It's like the high holy church of cinema. And they are the like nicest theaters I've ever been in at any festival. I will say the one really, really weird thing that I did not even, I mean, I guess this shows how, English centric the world is, but like, it's something that I never even occurred to me is like all the films that screen there are naturally subtitled in French since it's in France. But so there are so many people from all around the world who don't necessarily speak French. They also have even more subtitles beneath the screen in English and I think some other languages sometimes. Um,
Mm.
so you're constantly, especially if you were like really close to the screen, you had to like watch the movie and then literally like shift your gaze down like 10, like at 20, 40 degrees in order to read the subtitles and then look back up. It was really, really, my neck got a really good workout during those 2 weeks. But oh my God, I saw so much cinema. It's really wild because you kind of think that even from outside looking in, now when even you're there, all of us, you hear about all these films and you're like, oh well, it's, everything that plays at Cannes has got to be at least good, right? And there's always stories of movies that bomb, and every year
Oh God, I would love to be in those press screenings.
every year we're like, surely this will be the year when everything will be great, right? And oh my God, like being in those
And then
screenings,
Sean Penn's Flag Day comes out.
oh God.
Oh, I
I
forgot
Have you ever
about
will.
seen
that.
that? Or
Oh
oh
my
no, the one I
God.
remember going really badly was Mektub My Love from the director of Blue is the Warmest Color. Remember that one?
Oh
That just
yeah.
remember that toxic screening?
Went over like a lead balloon. Yeah. I will say that I was not in any screening that got like booze, but I saw many walkouts throughout the festival. So that was interesting. That was very interesting. But no, for anyone who loves film, I feel like you have to try to go one day. It was the most incredible experience. Just the environment, just
Oh,
the French
sounds so good.
Riviera. Like, it is one of those places where you realize like I am so poor because like all the it's like the rodeo drive of Europe, like all the big designers, just stores after store of high end fashion and accessories, and I can't stand it. But
I'm a teacher, Dan. I don't need can to make me feel poor.
exactly, right? Like, but
It'll make you feel more poor.
Right. But that said, like I did, come back after 2 weeks in France and like came back and was driving around New York City in the taxi back to my apartment and then went to this grocery store that's like 2 blocks from me to, stock up my refrigerator again. And I was looking at everything and I'm like, ugh, gosh, this place is so disgusting. Everything in this country is so disgusting. Because just the produce and everything in Europe is just so fresh and nice and not that expensive, weirdly. Ugh, I want to go back right now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I got to the closest I ever got to that is I was on a cruise with my mom back in 2015, and one of the stops was Monte Carlo, and they had an excursion to Cannes, and it was 1 week before the festival happened, so they were all set up for it and everything. So I got to at least see that, and that was otherworldly. And you're right, like you said, you have all the designers there and everything, all the high end shit there.
And somehow, amidst all the high-end shit, there is both a McDonald's and a Steak and Shake.
Okay, that one surprises me.
I feel like we're digressing.
We kind of are, but I think
just a bit.
If the audience is angry at it by this point, why are they still listening?
That's a really good question.
I put the blame on you, the audience.
Idiot Americans.
Comment.
Tony, what did you think of this lineup? Is there anything? I know you're always excited for a new Almodovar movie like Rob is.
So let me just tell you, as I was reading Charlie's wonderful article, I was like, this lineup at Cannes was curated for me. Because I feel like
because John Travolta's debut feature is there, right?
Yeah, baby.
Yes.
Out of competition, right? But still,
okay.
In the Cannes premiere section,
but still across the croissant. Go on.
When you have, yes, an Almodovar film, about that takes place at Christmas. I mean, hello,
God. Just call it Tony released.
Just pick me up off the floor. But then you have both Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz in different films in competition. Then you have Sandra Hüller, the divine Sandra Hüller, in the new Pavel Pawlikowski movie. When you have Hirokazu Koreeda with a movie, the one that's the most interesting to me is actually the Unknown, which is directed by the co-writer with Justine Triet
Arthur Harari
of Anatomy of a Fall.
It's her partner.
And they won the Oscar, and so I'm always very happy to see that.
And she co-wrote this as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Triet.
An Oscar Farhadi movie.
Yep.
Ira Sachs being the only American in competition.
That was not on my bingo card. Incredible.
That was not on my bingo card.
What I will say about that Ira Sachs movie is that in my research for the piece, I was so surprised to see that Ira Sachs has only had one other film play at anywhere in Cannes, and that was only in 2019 after he was already an accomplished filmmaker. It was the same actually with Almodovar. His first film to play at Cannes was All About My Mother. So this is after Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, Law of Desire, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. So he was already a well-established person when he first played there.
And I'll just the last thing I'll say is if you're going to give me a Romanian director with
Oh,
a cast that includes Sebastian Stan and the goddess Renata Reinsve,
Yes.
like honestly,
I'm just like,
wow.
I'm done.
I'm there. I'm
You can
ready.
just, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I
Fjord. That
mean,
looks incredible.
yes. The other thing that like I'm sure like all the gays noticed, and this I wish that I could be there for this genuinely. The Ron Howard documentary about Richard Avedon, the fashion photographer that's
Oh,
going
that'd
to
be
be there, like
amazing.
that red carpet is going to be insane.
Mate, I gotta get myself over to Cannes soon. I feel like yep. It's on the list. That sounds so good.
Well, yeah, and I got
Anyway,
to say, of all the ones that there's so many ones that look so interesting, but I think the one that I personally am the most excited for is Asghar Farhadi's movie
mhm.
about the interconnected lives of the people during the terrorist attack in 2015 in Paris and Saint Denis. Um, he seems like someone who's like primed to win the Palm at some point in his career. I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't happened yet. And it'd be interesting if they had back-to-back Iranian filmmakers win the Palme d'Or.
Well, recent
That would be
events are
very cool.
certainly not going to hurt that possibility.
Dear God, the whole idea of like how does this influence entertainment is just like it just shows me it shows me I need to get out more. Um,
I
And
mean,
it tells me that I need to stay in more.
Yes, I love it.
oh,
well,
and we
yeah.
if
Oh, go
and
on,
if
yeah.
I read the news correctly, Neon has already made their first purchase out of
Yeah.
Cannes. With,
Oh, that's
For
that's what
what?
I'm
Which
watching.
one?
What are they?
Yeah, Na Hongjin's Hope.
Yep.
Fantastic. Whatever they
Ooh.
buy, keep your eye on those. That's
Like
how I look at it.
they're already starting. Like
I think Neon had 5 films in my top 10 last year.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's what we were
Agreed.
thinking,
they
that it was a
they
distinct
have
possibility that
excellent
Neon
taste.
could get all the slots in international feature if they had gone with
No other
no other
choice.
choice instead of
Yeah,
Voice of Hinder Job.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
it's
What a
kind of
year.
crazy.
Such a great
I
year.
mean, and
I
they've had every Palme d'Or winner since at least Parasite.
Yeah, I
They've
think
got
since
yeah,
Parasite,
they've done
Parasite was the first one.
All
yeah,
right.
they've had every Palme d'Or winner since then. So it's kind of almost like a for if it's someone the only way it's news is if it's going to be someone other than Neon distributing it in the U.S.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Which
mean,
means I'll get
Neon.
it in a nice little box
I know
set.
we're I know we're getting off track a little bit again, but it completely blows my mind that Neon has had the trajectory they have, and they're not even 10 years old, or they're
It's
just turning. This
incredible.
will be their 10th year this year, I believe.
They should do a
They
And
documentary about it.
have
they're spending money the right way. They're not spending
Yeah.
gobs of money.
They're not
They're just
Netflixing
so
it.
precise.
what
Mm,
They're precision spending, which I think is so
it's very
smart.
with
smart.
with their like specialty features, their like the things that they pick up out of festivals, like they really just have incredible taste.
Yeah. That's
Particularly, I think in international features, but just in general, like just incredible taste. If not for like certain films, then at least the filmmakers behind them are always really interesting and talented.
Yeah,
yeah.
and the fact that they've also in less than 10 years of existence have pulled off two Best Picture wins is astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing. And I have a feeling like someone like Sony Pictures Classic is like, hey, we're still here. We're still here. We still do some stuff, I feel like they've
Wow.
really stolen their thunder.
Love
Hmm.
it. Love
A
it.
little bit.
A little bit, a little bit. Um, Well, that I want to transition from that. I want to talk about Broadway and the Tony Awards right now. As Tony season is really heating up, we're seeing this is the time of year where a lot of new productions are opening up to qualify for the Tony Awards. And Dan, you're my personal Broadway buddy. We're going to be seeing two shows in a couple weeks. We're going to be seeing. Um, Titanic at the St.
Mhm.
James, and then we're also going to be seeing the new Rocky Horror production, which at first I didn't want to, but then the cast list came out, and like MJ Rodriguez, Juliette Lewis, Harvey Guillen, Stephanie Hsu, Luke Adams,
Luke Evans as
Evans, sorry,
Frankenfurter.
yeah, I mean
That's pretty
like
good
this,
casting.
yeah, this cast is fucking ridiculous, and so and then it's also directed by Sam
And
Pinkleton,
who is on
who
such a
direct.
fucking hot streak right now.
Yeah, and we both saw O'Mary, and
Yeah,
when I came up
together.
there when I came up there for my birthday 2 years ago, and that's still I think probably top two experiences I've ever had in a theater because the energy in that theater was. I don't think had you experienced anything like that beforehand?
No.
Yeah, I had never
I
experienced anything
I
like that.
I gotten close a couple of times, but the like the length and strength of the laughter in that theater was just out of this world.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
can
was.
imagine.
And to think that he did that 8 times a week
I
is just like
cannot
because he's so
imagine.
tiny. Cola Scola is so tiny, and I'm just like, how does he have the energy for this?
Yeah.
I
Oh.
know.
And yeah.
So, first thing I want to ask you, Dan, is which shows are looking like they're going to be the big players on both the play side and the musical side this year?
Okay, well, let's start with the musicals because it's a lot smaller of a list.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the one that
There,
pays the bills.
Yeah.
there were only five new musicals to premiere on Broadway this year that are still open. There was one that quite infamously closed around
And I
December,
do want to ask about that specifically about that later.
Yeah.
starring Miss Kristen Chenoweth, the Queen
Yeah.
of Versailles, our dearly departed Queen of Versailles. But besides that, there is Beaches, a new musical, Schmigadoon, The Lost Boys, Titanic, and Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York. Those are the original shows. And then when we're talking about performances, you also have to factor in the revivals, which include Cats, The Jellicle Ball, Chess, Mamma Mia, Ragtime, and The Rocky Horror Show.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think on the musical side, I think the big heavy hitters, just based on what I have heard out of previews, Beaches and The Lost Boys are no good.
Interesting.
Schmigadoon, I have always kind of thought will like be a little divisive, even if they get it right. Some people just won't vibe with it the way they didn't vibe with the show on the TV show. But I am curious about how they have adapted that show to the stage. But I really think it's going to be between Titanic, which has just had an incredible record-setting run off Broadway and transferred to be literally at like the last minute to this season. It's kind of incredible the run that has had. And Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York, which is a transfer from the West End. There was called Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across London, I think. And everyone seems to love it. I have not met a single person who has disliked it. It's just one of those perfectly delightful musicals that everyone seems to love. And naturally, the two leads of that show will be, I think, competing for the lead actor and actress in a musical, Tony, alongside the star of Titanic, who, from all accounts, as Celine Dion, is just phenomenal. Marla Mendel is her name, I think. But there's also in that show Melissa Barrera and a whole bunch of other people that could compete for awards, and it's going to be really interesting to see what that show does, because it's going over really well, I think, from what I've seen.
And what about the play side?
On the play side, it's
the play side is ridiculous.
It's ridiculously stacked. It's
Yeah.
ridiculously stacked. And I was doing this and I was like just looking at and thinking about between what is currently open and what is already closed. The best leading actor in a play, Tony, is going to be a fucking bloodbath.
Insane.
Because you
Do you
have,
think it'll be?
I think I know
on the level of Audra McDonald versus Nicole Scherzinger last year, because that
except
was
it's
an
going to be
epic
all
showdown.
5 of them.
I reckon there's 6.
All 5.
Really?
Yeah, really, because you have Adrian Brody in The Fear of 13, which is only just opening. John Lithgow in Giant, who is getting just phenomenal best of his career.
Those reviews are insane.
And won the Olivier for the same role.
Yeah.
You have Nathan Lane in Death of a Salesman, the winningest role in Tony history, and who is getting, again, best of his career. You have never seen him like this reviews. You have Proof, the revival with oh my god,
Don Cheadle, right?
With Don Cheadle opposite Io Edebiri. You have Daniel Radcliffe in Every Brilliant Thing, who everyone says is brilliant.
It's supposed to be amazing. And then like Mark Strong.
Yeah, and Mark Strong for Oedipus, which is close now, but like of course he's going to get nominated. And if you want to go even further, oh god, what's his name? Who was in Bug with Carrie Coon, who was also fantastic.
Oh yeah,
and the one that you have mentioned is, I actually think the nominees are most likely going to be probably Brody and Lane and Lithgow, and I think Alden Ehrenreich. The reviews on Becky Shaw. Every headline was Alden Ehrenreich makes like staggering Broadway debut.
That would make me so happy.
That would make me so happy too.
He's getting incredible reviews for that.
Yeah. Well, John Bernthal, like Mark Strong, like I don't know, it's going to be a tough one. There's going to be a lot of really interesting, deserving contenders who will not make it in, obviously, because they can't, and that's really sad. It's so stacked. It hurts me to see them miss out.
And the weird thing is, and I feel so weird about the Death of a Salesman revival, because you remember we saw the Wendell Pierce one that was just on there. It was just on Broadway less than 3 years ago, maybe been like 2 years ago. And so it blew my mind that they were bringing it back. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to see this because I've already seen it with Wendell Pierce, and I thought that.
And Sharon D. Clark, who was phenomenal. But I mean, Nathan Lane and Laurie Metcalf.
Oh my god!
And Christopher Abbott as the son, who I am also really excited to see. Like, oh my god! It just, I mean,
a friend of mine went to the second to last preview before opening night, and the main takeaway was engrave the Tonys for Abbott and Laurie Metcalf right now, and that she could not figure out, because she had just seen John Lithgow in Giant 3 days prior, and then she's like, I literally can't pick between these two performances.
Jeez.
And I'm like, I don't know how you do. She's like, I did not have high hopes for Nathan Lane as salesman, because she has seen that her first Death of a Salesman was George C. Scott in the 70s, and then she saw Dustin Hoffman do it, and then she saw Brian Dennehy do it, and Brian Dennehy will always be her favorite. But then like, she's like, Nathan Lane is like right up there. It's like, really? She's like, yeah, color me shocked.
Look, if you have seen some of his more dramatic stage work in The Nance or Angels in America, you know he can go to those deep, dark places that this role requires. And especially recently, he has been aging, I think, really well into like he looks like, an old man in heavy air quotes, but he still is like fit enough to actually do this show as
And he's doing
to
it
do
8
this
times a
role
week.
eight times a week.
He's
Yeah.
not doing what a
Yeah.
lot of the last 2 times. I think Wendell Pierce did it too. The last time, 2 times it's been on Broadway, they've only done the 7,
Mm,
and
yeah.
he's doing 8. And I'm like, are you out of your mind, man?
Yeah.
But he is.
And
And on top of this, oh God, though I forgot to even mention the revival of Joe Turner's Come and Gone with
oh yeah,
Cedric the Entertainer and Taraji P.
Oh
Henson,
yeah.
which like if another case of like really counterintuitive casting, I would never think of Cedric the Entertainer, but if he pulls that off, that is an incredible role that it would be hard to not see him compete in that category if he pulls it off. That I think is going to be the most exciting, nail biting category of the whole. Just to see who gets nominated and then again to see who wins. It's very exciting.
Mhm.
so we you alluded to this earlier. I think sometimes I think the stories of shows that miss the mark are far more interesting than the stories of shows that are successes. I mean, like I will never forget. I had a subscription to the New York Post during the Spider-Man during the initial during the first when they were still like ironing out and every other week someone is falling
Oh,
to
the
be
glory
injured.
days.
Oh my god, that was so much fun to read about. As every day was something new, and
Mhm.
so and like so like I think last year one of the biggest ones was the Tammy Faye musical, which I think ran a week, if that. Um, but this year it looks like the big miss was Queen of Versailles. So please tell us about what that was and how it missed the mark.
What it was. Oh Lord. Well, it was an adaptation of the documentary, The Queen of Versailles, and starred Kristen Chenoweth in the titular role of a woman who her husband is obscenely wealthy, and they're building out their Florida home to resemble the Palace of Versailles just before the economic meltdown of 2008. So fun times for capitalism.
And her
It was
Charlie Kirk
a
comments didn't help.
yes, her Charlie Kirk comments and general politics did not help.
Yeah.
The weird thing is everyone agreed that she was really good in the show. It's just that the show was terrible.
Yeah.
It was apparently even when like they went through so many changes out of town and during tryouts, and then when it arrived here, it was still apparently too long. And people who I know who saw it almost left at intermission because they were so bored. Um,
Wow.
it was just, by all accounts, just not a very good show and had weird sort of framing around the central character because it is a person, and the documentary walks a really fine line between sort of laughing at her and laughing with her at this exorbitant explosion of wealth, and making a stage musical about that in the year of our Lord 2025, since it premiered in the fall, is just a choice, and it's a very difficult thing to get right. And by all accounts, they did not get it right. And I think a large of that had to be because you have Kristen Chenoweth playing this role, and I don't
And
think
she was a producer.
yeah, And I don't think she particularly enjoys roles that showcase her in any sort of negative light in that way. So they kind of, you have to do this with like the sort of gaping void at the center of it almost, because you can't address the character in the way it really needs to be addressed. But
And
that was really just the big, miss of the season. There have been no other. All of the musicals are sort of like opening around now. Like I said, I've heard not great things about Beaches and the Lost Boys, but they're not officially open, I think, yet. So we'll see.
and
about
Beaches
that.
is that's based on the movie.
Yes.
Cool.
So
I
it's
mean,
it's
that's interesting.
basically just counting on gay men to be a hit, right? I mean that's the only thing. I mean, which kind of is Broadway in a
Isn't
nutshell.
that? Yeah.
Anyhow,
I mean, yeah, but even at
Yeah,
that,
but
they're
gay men of a
really just
certain age.
Oh,
they
that's
are.
very true. Yeah.
Well, and let me tell you, they really are banking on the name selling it, because their big star is Jessica Vosk.
yeah. Okay.
Who?
Exactly.
Exactly.
No disrespect to Jessica Voss, by the way, but whoever the hell.
No
No disrespect.
It was an honest
A
question.
wonderful
No,
singer.
Who?
I don't know.
But
I hardly knew
yeah,
her.
I like yeah. Yeah.
Oh God! I
Okay.
just when you talked about people leaving during intermission, it reminded me of the one time you came down to visit me, and because you wanted to see the
Oh
production
yeah,
of
the
Sunset Boulevard at the Kennedy Center, and
yeah, with
I bought the tickets
70J
late, so we
Block.
weren't sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
And after intermission, uh, I went up to you. I found you in the lobby, and you were like, "Oh, what did you think of the show?" And I was like, well, it's interesting, and then you just said, "Yeah, it's not. The show itself is not a good
The show is bad.
show.
Yeah.
Not a good
That is a
show."
bad show. I do not like that show. You go to see that show for the lead actress to do the big numbers, and that is it.
Uh,
And
Yeah,
70J
they
Block
literally
delivered.
just
It
sing
was
about
great.
what they're doing. There's no depth to the
Really
songs.
bad.
To me,
Welcome
that's
uh,
to
like
Andrew
Andrew
Lloyd
Lloyd Webber in a
Webber.
nutshell. Yeah, that's
hello.
Andrew
Yeah.
Lloyd Webber in a nutshell.
At the
It's
Trump Kennedy
why.
Center. Sorry.
Hmm.
But so
Anywho.
Anywho,
Eddie, I do want to open this up to everybody because I don't, I'm not sure if you have any, but Rob, I will start with you. Do you have any? I want to ask all of us if we have any like favorite memories of watching the Tony Awards, because the Tony Awards is actually, I think, one of the true gems of an awards broadcast, and they really, I think, kept it at the same consistently at the
yeah,
same level. Not like we've seen, like the Oscars can go up and down, the Emmys can go up and down, the Grammys are just a fucking mess. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Rob, I'll start with you, Rob. Do you
Okay,
have any
I
like
have some
favorite
thoughts.
memories of the
Yeah, I
Tony
do.
Awards?
I do. So here's the thing, like with the Tonys, it's the one awards where I go in completely blind. I have no real sense of what's a favorite, what's not. I don't follow it closely. I just kind of follow it tangentially, obviously because I don't live in New York or in the US. But and I will say what I love about the Tonys is when they nominate theater actors and not necessarily transplants from Hollywood or the West End. And I really enjoy getting to know all these really cool theater actors that I would never have heard of otherwise. So all of that, and of course, we must remember how difficult it must be to put on a show, especially in this day and age, post COVID, but even before COVID, but post COVID in particular, how expensive it must be and how much of a risk they're taking. And so when the Queen of Versailles comes out and it's a complete disaster, I do feel so much sympathy for that because at least they gave it a shot. That being said, my favorite memories are well, I remember a long time ago when Rent was nominated and they did the performance, and that was my way of like I realized, oh, that show looks awesome, and I was going to New York City the following year, I think, and that's where I saw Rent. It was almost the whole original Broadway cast, except I think Wilson Cruz was Angel at the time, and I just remember that because I'm such a huge Star Trek nerd, which Tony and I will talk about a little bit later on this show, if we have time. And so yeah, when they performed Rent on stage, I was always remember that was a lot. I think I was 20, so I wasn't familiar with the show. I had no idea what was going on. It happened to be on TV, and from that moment, I was like, oh, the Tonys are worth watching just to get an insight into this whole art form that I have no idea about. And yeah, so that's my main memory. And then of course, recently, I was really kind of excited to see Bette Midler. Speaking of beaches, but Bette Midler get up there and win for Hello Dolly, because she just gave her usual she was Bette Midler doing Bette Midler. And she was just like, this is my moment. And she spent 4 minutes just like going on and on about how amazing to the Tony voters, many of whom who I've dated. And I just thought that was really cool. So they're my two memories that stick out.
Tony, how about you?
Very easy for me to think about this one because I'm pretty sure that my gay awakening was the 1993 Tony Awards when I was 15 years old, and that was the year of Angels in America. When the first part of Angels in America, and when Steven Spinella won, he was the first person I ever remember as a young, not realizing I was gay, but definitely gay kid, uh, thanking his lover, who he called the husband of his heart. And I was like, oh my God, you can say that? And I actually told this story to Joe Mantello when I interviewed him a few years ago. And he shared all sorts of lovely off the record stuff about that whole thing with me. And so that was great. But literally, I'm pretty sure that the moment that made me gay was also the year of Kiss of the Spider Woman, and seeing the goddess Cheetah Rivera dressed in that white outfit with the fedora and the tux and the pantsuit and the legs that went up to here, and I was like, and with this gravelly, deep voice.
I gotta look that up.
And the art. I mean, just look up the picture. I mean,
It's
oh my God. I mean,
Cheetah.
the iconic thing. And I was just like, who is that?
Who is Cheetah Rivera? Can I just ask? Like, is she like a famous? She's super famous Broadway actress, or she's actress?
Cheetah Rivera is theater royalty. She was the original Anita in West Side Story. She was in the original cast of Bye Bye Birdie. She has 2 Tony Awards. She is a goddess of the theater.
I can see the photo. Yeah.
And,
wow.
And famously, that was kind of her return because she had been in a really bad car accident and basically had to have her legs basically rebuilt. And then she was back 8 times a week, kicking her legs up in the air. And I was like, and then, of course, many, many years later, she was doing a concert tour when she was 81, I think.
Shit.
And she came here to Sacramento, and I was sitting in the 3rd row, and she did an entire medley of Kiss of the Spider Woman. And I was singing. I was mouthing the words because I'm a polite chipmunk. I was mouthing the entire score, every lyric, and she literally pointed to me and she's like, "You know every word." And I said, "Yes, I do." She's like, "I love you." And
that's awesome.
I could have died. I could have died. I could have died happy.
You probably died, and this is just your ghost.
I probably left stains on the seat. What can I say?
Love it. Oh,
You and Alex Borstein having to scotch guard those seats afterwards. Before I get to you, Dan, I just want to say I think, and I know we both share this one. The moment when Avenue Q won Best Musical over Wicked.
I was so happy.
I was okay. So I was a senior in high school and of course all the theater kids were fucking, and it really wasn't the theater kids of my high school, it was the theater kids of my church because I went to a Unitarian church. That says it all. That is the church of theater kids. Okay.
Okay.
Either that or Reformed Judaism, and they're kind of interchangeable sometimes. And so all my friends at youth group were fucking nuts about Wicked, and I just wanted to be the iconoclast. And I'm like, nah, just you wait. Avenue Q's going, and I did not think it was going to happen. So when
No
Nathan Lane
one
opened,
did.
when Nathan Lane and the campaign that they did was so
It was
legendary, and
so
they were
good.
completely within the rules of what was
Yes.
allowed. And
But
when Nathan
because
Lane
they
and then
were
said,
so
and the
successful.
2004 Tony Award for Best Musical goes to Avenue Q, I lost my shit. And seeing the reaction in Radio City, especially all the Avenue Q people going up on stage. I remember John Tartaglia like looking into the camera as he was going up on stage, like he couldn't fucking believe it.
Yeah.
And then the producer, I can't remember her name, was Robin something, the first one to speak, said, "It certainly doesn't suck to be us tonight."
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest moments, one of the great upsets of all time.
It was, for
And
sure.
oh god, that's
Mhm.
just one that I was over the moon
It
about.
and because it didn't just win Best Musical, it also won Best
Score
Book
and book.
and Best Score. And I
Yeah.
was so,
And
so,
that was the
so
first time a
fucking
lot of people
happy.
ever saw Bobby Lopez,
Yeah, yeah,
Who's now in EGOT.
yeah,
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
him
don't
and
know if
his. I
that's really aged well,
remember
but
him and what Jeff Marks because that one was being presented by one of the
Carol
strangest
Channing and
parents,
LL Cool J.
LL Cool J, and
Yup.
it worked. It
It
worked.
somehow did.
And then when they got up there, and this is of course before we had cameras in our cell phones. So Bobby Lopez or Jeff Marks, I can't remember which one, took out a disposable camera and they took a picture of themselves with Carol and LL Cool J. They won. That was just such a great moment. Um, what do you have any other ones that are standouts to you?
Um, w- any wins? No, because they all like they're all. I do remember uh when Alice Ripley won for Next to Normal. I remember her like quoting, doing a really good, I think it was like a JFK quote that she used
Yep.
about the arts that was like really, really good. And Mark Rylance, whenever he wins, he always like spits some poetry on that stage.
Okay,
That is just like
so
delightful.
last week my grandmother passed away in December of 2024.
Mhm.
But because we were burying her at Arlington, there's a long wait list for burials at Arlington. So we only just interred her last week, and
Oh
at
wow.
the reception afterward, I was trying to think of something quirky to say, and I thought of Mark Rylance's first speech when he quoted
Oh
the
no.
poem "The Back Country," and
Yes.
so I did that. I recited that, and then at the end just went Takani, and that was it. I remember during that speech I don't remember who they cut to, but they cut to someone in the crowd who had this completely
Yeah.
bewildered look, and it's the same feed they had in Radio City, so everyone just started laughing at that. It was just
Yeah.
yeah.
There the other um win that I remember that I will always remember is Patti LuPone winning for Gypsy, because Patti LuPone as Mama Rose, and she let the conductor know, you don't play off Patti LuPone, especially when she's collecting her Tony Award for playing Mama fucking Rose. A beautiful moment in gay history that was.
Something I talked to her about when I interviewed her for Hollywood
Nice.
on my birthday, which she sang me
yes,
happy
I
birthday. And do
remember.
I
I still have the
remember
recording?
that.
Yes, I fucking do.
Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? What I remember most from the Tonys are the performances every year. Like, I may not have seen it live, but there is a reason why the Jennifer Holliday Dreamgirls Tony Awards performance is so fucking legendary. You see people rip their heart out on this stage. It just happened. A similar thing to that happened a couple years ago with Joaquin Calacongo for Paradise
Mm.
Square, a musical that
Or
no one cared about at all. But when she got out there and belted that big number out, and Cynthia Erivo standing up right in front of her, like nodding at her, pointing like you did that, and like I would have pissed myself if Cynthia Erivo was sitting right in front of me and I had to sing like that in front of her. But oh man, there have been so many incredible performances that I have loved watching on the Tony Awards. The one that I
well,
hold
I mean, even
dearest.
last year when Audra McDonald's
Oh,
performance
Audra McDonald. Yeah.
of Rose's Turn was incredible, and
Yeah.
we had seen it, and
Amazing.
it was incredible. Just one other speech. This is piggybacking off of you, Tony. That the first year of Angels in America, I love Ron Liebman's acceptance speech when he won because he shouted out his wife, the great Jessica Walter, and
I
he had the
know what you're
best
gonna
line. He said,
say.
"Finally, to the love of my life, Jessica, I love you so much. Maybe now we can get an apartment with a washer and dryer." One of the
Oh, that's
best.
funny.
Oh,
But
that's a good one.
that transcends us into our top five this week.
Wait, I have to talk about my one favorite. My one
Okay, just
favorite
very quickly.
performance.
We do need
Very,
to,
very,
yeah.
very quickly, because it needs to be talked about because it is one of the greatest performances that has ever been captured on live TV. Raul Esparza doing Being Alive for Company that year. I don't
Yes.
know. It like broke
Yes.
my soul open and then put me back together. And it was a
I remember all the
moment.
articles on Gold Derby at the time where he was by far the favorite to win
Mhm.
the Tony, and I had never seen the show before, and after that very abbreviated, what was it, like 2 minute performance, I went, oh, that's why.
Yeah. Yup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just his version
Um,
of that song has always done something to me, but that performance he transcended is really
he
beautiful.
was incredible, absolutely incredible. Which brings us to our top five favorite stage musicals of all time. This was at first I thought this one was going to be easy for me. This one ended up being incredibly tough, um, which we'll get into in more detail as we go along. But Dan, you are our guest. What's your number five?
So it's really hard. My top like three musicals on Broadway are kind of set in stone and they're immovable. But after that, there are like another, I don't know, 10 to 20 competing for a spot in the top five. And it changes literally every day, probably. But when I think of like shows that I have had the privilege to see on Broadway and enjoy on Broadway, and since we're, doing this podcast in the here and now, I wanted to have some representation of current stuff since most of my stuff is going to be old. And my number five musical, my favorite musical of recent years, is Once, the adaptation of the John Carney movie, which I saw on stage twice and it was just so magical every time I saw it. I was very angry that I didn't get to see it off Broadway when it was at the new theater, because everyone who saw it there said it was incredible in that intimate space, but they turned that big Broadway theater into the most intimate space in that show, and I have never just had gotten full body chills with a musical before that, and it's still one of my favorites.
Rob, what's your number five?
Okay, so I need to preface that some I'm going to be really basic. I'm going to be the basic bitch of this group. I haven't seen everything, obviously, and I have seen a bunch of things on Broadway and off Broadway, but I've also seen a bunch of things where Broadway productions then moved internationally, and I saw the Sydney company, and which I'm very proud of because I think the musical and theatre scene in Sydney and Melbourne are really strong. But anyway, and also I'm not really a big fan of musicals, to be honest. I like some of them, and some of them I can't stand. But I have two kids who are obsessed with musical theatre, particularly my son. And one day I think we'll be talking about him on Broadway, and I'm very proud of that too. So that being said, please don't crucify me for being basic. But I saw the most recent iteration of. I can't even want this. I'm so embarrassed. My son said, "Don't say this, Dad. They're gonna roast you." But I'm gonna say it. Of Aladdin, and I loved it so much. I loved that show. I thought it was so cool. I just thought it was really magical. Maybe I'd had a few too many champagnes. I'm not sure, but I had a really good seat. For me, when I'm seeing theater, if I'm uncomfortable, if I've got like a really annoying person next to me, or someone's like crunching on Doritos in front of me, or whatever, it just takes away from the experience. And maybe part of it is I had a great seat. My kids were being really well behaved. Paula was feeling good, and the show was amazing. And then we bought like some merch, and we had a really great day. And I just have great memories of Aladdin. But as a show, I thought it was really beautiful. Have you guys seen Aladdin? Do you think that I'm completely off my rocker?
Look,
I see that, but I remember the Tony Awards
look,
performance was really good.
Yeah,
look,
Monroe is a hard
the magic carpet effect is one of the best things I've seen in a Broadway
so
theater.
good.
It's great. It's great.
But but anyway, it's also
No, but
yeah.
like when you don't have as many options and you don't get
No,
out to see things as
no,
often. So of course, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
when I was my first Broadway show was Disney's Beauty and the Beast. And for
awesome.
years, that was the best thing that I had seen. They knew how to produce a really good looking show that would
Yeah.
entertain all ages, like they did in the movies.
Tony,
Yeah.
what's your number five?
My number five is Avenue Q, actually. Um,
I love.
and by the way, I just want to say, my judge, I tried to figure out what was the commonality in all of the shows that are on my top five. And I think what makes a great musical is, I will totally out myself here. I have never been to New York. I have never been to Broadway. I hope to maybe fix that this summer. But I think a great musical should work in a variety of venues. You can see it on Broadway. You could see it in a touring company. You could see it in a community theater, original theater. And if it hits you in multiple avenues, no pun intended, it does. And I think Avenue Q just is a perfect little musical. And I will tell you that among my drama students, it's kind of their favorite show. It's like they're obsessed with it the way we used to be obsessed with cast albums of yore. They love the original cast album. So
Oh my
that was an
gosh.
easy choice for me.
Oh, that's
It's
so
nice to
awesome to
know that
hear about your students.
it's nice to know that show that I think for people who were critics of, especially when it won Best Musical, thinking that it was just a gimmicky thing, but it has had an incredible amount of staying power because the themes of the show are still so relevant. Especially, I've always said it's like an episode of Sesame Street for people in their 20s, for people in their
Yeah.
mid 20s.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
was literally in college when that show came out and getting my degree in theater studies. And so hearing, what do you do with the BA in English
In
was
English.
oh my God, this is my life. Why?
My number five is La Cage aux Folles. I
Mm.
love La Cage, and it's passed down. My mom saw the original run twice. In fact, the second time she went with my father, and she took her parents with her, including her World War II veteran Irish Catholic father, and he loved it. And I got to take my mom to see it at the Kennedy Center. I saw the touring production of the most recent revival that had done. They put George Hamilton in the
As
uh,
George.
yeah, George, and that was obviously stunt casting. But Playing Alban was Christopher Sieber, and he was
Oh,
so fucking good. And the whole production was great. When you walked into the theater, you had a drag queen on stage doing crowd work, as a warm up. And at that moment, I was like, I'm in good hands here. I'm in good hands. I trust this. And the whole the just anyone who can do I am what I am is just the one of those quintessential, like, belting amazing male numbers, and I can't say enough good things about it. It's one of the best theater experiences, also, of taking my mom to the theater, which is something I've been doing more and more over the past, I want to say, 10 years, because she used to do that all the time with my father, and she misses it. And I'm glad that we can at least have those experiences together. Dan, what's your number four?
so my number four, I debated about as I did with my number five because I debated about like usually what I say is my number four is a same composer as one of my top two, and I kind of like to have diversity in my top fives. But I also thought like if I did my number four as like my favorite show that I've ever been in or something like that, it wouldn't be true, really. So I'm gonna say my number four is Company, which is, like it's kind of hard to not relate to that show as a middle-aged-ish man, particularly if you're gay. Um, but it's so well written. I have seen it numerous times because I actually like worked the light and soundboard for a production of it at a community theater back home, and I've also seen it when it was on Broadway. I saw it with Charlie. Katrina Lenk did a gender swapped version of it, and I also saw yeah, but that I saw the with Neil Patrick Harris when he did it at Lincoln
Carnegie
Center,
Hall.
which was at Carnegie, yeah, which was just incredible. And there is just something so really special about the how they how that show talks about relationships and love and what it means to love another person and what it means to love yourself. And it does it in it is this format that is so there's still, I don't think, really anything quite like it, is the sort of like impressionistic collection of scenes about this guy's relationships with his friends and their relationships with their partners, and it's a very
Good,
special
crazy, merry
show
friends.
to me. Yeah. It's a very special show to me. It is one of those it's a whole score of like no skips. Every single song is fantastic. And it always leaves me, a wreck at the end.
Uh, when you said the thing about, just a quick aside, when you said that thing about having two composers in your top five, it reminded me of this quote on one of the AFI specials. I remember when they got to The Godfather Part Two, they cut to Sidney Lumet, and Sidney Lumet said, "I hate Francis Coppola because when I go down the list of my five favorite movies, he has two of them."
Yeah.
Rob, what's your number four?
Well, speaking of Avenue Q, I saw Avenue Q on Broadway. I also saw Wicked on Broadway, like the year after that huge shock at the Tonys. And I'm of the opinion I love both shows. I'm of the opinion that the Avenue Q win didn't really age well. That's just my opinion. I just feel like these days
You're
Wicked is
wrong.
so well. I get it. I get it. It's subjective. These days, I just feel like Wicked
Hmm.
is really just like so much part of the cultural lexicon. But anyway, that's my view. So I'm saying I've seen Wicked on Broadway once. I've seen Wicked in Sydney the first time it came here a few years ago, and then I've seen it again when it came out here recently with the kids. And I didn't really love the movies, but I thought the show was really cool. And when I saw it on Broadway, Idina Menzel had moved on, but Shoshana Bean was playing Elphaba,
Hmm.
and I was really, really, really impressed with her vocals. And just so again, basic bitch here, but I think Wicked's a good show. I hate people when people shit on it, so that's my number four.
Tony, what's your number four?
My number four is actually my first exposure to Broadway, and it is Stephen Sondheim's Into the Woods, the PBS American Playhouse version with pretty much the entire original Broadway cast. I think that show is absolutely magnificent. I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of versions of that show. I've played the Baker twice. It's a show that just breaks me into a million pieces because it does what uh, it takes these great fairy tales, but also, what most fairy tales are designed to do is connect to life, and that's what that show does. It's one of the hardest scores I've ever had to learn. A little Sondheim patter is not for the weak-hearted. Yeah.
My number four, and this is going to be one of many points of personal privilege, but it's a tie because of what I think these shows mean for humor and what would work for humor on Broadway. And that is one is The Producers, and the other is The Book of Mormon. Both of those I think are just exquisitely
Nice.
funny. I was raised on The Producers. We had it on Laser, the original movie with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder, and it was my first Broadway show ever. I saw it the night before it broke the Tony record with 12 wins. I saw it the Saturday before the Tony Awards with Nathan Lane, Matthew
Wow.
Broderick, Gary Beach, R.I.P. From right here now,
R.I.P.
right here in Northern Virginia, Roger Bart and Brad Oscar and Katie Huffman. It was incredible, and it was everything you'd want it to be because it was also this love letter to Broadway as well. And the Book of Mormon is just so goddamn funny. Dan, we're both South Park nerds to the max,
Mhm.
and the way that their humor translated so well to the stage, the way they made it work is just, and oh my god, the I believe number is so fucking great. Just for the line in 1978, God changed his mind about black people, followed by the show going, "The fuck is this?" Just like one of the it's so goddamn funny. Um, it's one that has they're both shows that you can go to again. You don't mind seeing them again, and I think that's with the cost of Broadway tickets nowadays. I really
Crazy.
think if you want to see a show again, that really says something to the staying power of that production.
Mm.
So yeah, those are my number four. Uh, Dan, number three.
So, as a Jew, I,
This can only go downhill from here.
Oh my god.
I have seen Fiddler on the Roof more times than I have seen probably any other stage show ever. It
Because it's
is.
perfect.
Thanks for stealing my thunder, Tony. But
It's perfect. Is it
because
perfect?
I was going to say because as a Jew, we're kind of required to see it every production of it whenever it is on the stage, and no, it doesn't matter what synagogue basement it's taking place in. We are required by law to go see it.
Gotta punch your
So
card.
yeah, and because I have seen it so many times in so many different levels of professionalism, I can honestly say that that is a show that works whether or not the people performing in it have any talent. It is just rock solid. The things that are funny in it have always been funny and they are still funny. The things in it that are heartwarming have always been heartwarming and they are still heartwarming. And the things in it that are difficult have always been difficult and continue to be difficult. And it really is just a timeless story that proves over and over again how timeless it is as history marches ever forward through the same cycle of events. And it's another one that just like it never fails to make me cry by the end. And it has this power that just transcends the skill level of whoever's playing it just because of how deeply connected it is to our collective humanity. And yeah, it was the first musical that I kind of knew any songs from, and it's still, I think, one of the best musicals ever written.
Rob, number 3.
So again, on the Basic Bitch tour, I really, really, really love the musical Chicago. I've seen it live once, Sydney Company, long time before the kids were born. Juliet is 17, so it was a long time ago. And so Paula and I saw it when we were newlyweds, actually. And I have lots of different reasons for why I love it, but I remember, and of course I've seen the movie now, and I've seen clips on YouTube. I just remember how it's just like I just think it's a really perfect story. Like, there's something about Chicago. I just feel it's really timeless, and yeah. So I don't think you can be a real basic bitch if you don't have Chicago on your list. So that's my number 3.
I look a
I
slight discursion.
I question you seeing it as newlyweds, considering it's about spousal murder. But
I know,
to each
I
their
know.
own.
We were looking at each other like, that's getting some ideas.
Look, I will say this about Chicago. A few year a little while before the pandemic, I want to say like 2017, 2018 maybe, Lincoln Center Theater brought over a production of that from this Japanese company that is all female. It's like all gender swapped roles. Every role is a parent's role. It's all women playing all the parts, and it was in Japanese. I still had a blast. That show still
That is so
works.
niche.
That
Wow.
it's the same as the Broadway revival that's currently running, but just it was a gender swapped Japanese version of it, and it still played amazingly well. That show is incredible.
Tony, what's your number 3?
I've already kind of talked about it. It's Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Wow.
I absolutely love that show. I've seen professional productions, I've seen amateur productions, and it is a stellar and I think highly underrated Kander and Ebb score that I can sing every word to.
Wow. Cool.
Did you see the movie with J-Lo?
That's not best to be talked about because that is not the show.
Oh.
Okay, fair. That is fair. I liked the adaptation choices they made, but we can talk about that later.
It's good. It's a good movie. It is not. It's a case that for me, the movie is a case of me being too close to the source material.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah,
because all of my favorite songs, songs are Valentine songs.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the day after that it's hard not to have that in the show.
Yeah.
All right.
My number 3 is actually one of the more recent ones that I've seen, and this was one I saw with you, Dan, and it's Buena Vista Social Club.
Oh wow!
Awesome.
And you remember this, Dan? The energy in that
incredible
that show radiates is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's so good. And Rob, I know during our documentary list that was your favorite documentary, and the music is so goddamn good.
I'd love to see the show.
It's anyway, and I was so surprised. There were in the row in front of us. There were a couple of people who brought their kids that couldn't have been more than 7, I think.
Wow!
And everyone was just having a great time. Natalie Venetia Belkan was otherworldly as Amara. She was so good, and I mean, if I wasn't a good person who had good theater manners, I would have been dancing in the aisles during that thing. And you know what? You probably could have just allowed everyone to do it, and it still would have been a blast. Um, Dan, number two.
So if I look at things completely objectively, just on the page, I think the best musical ever written is Stephen Sondheim's Follies. It is not my favorite. It is not my pick for the best. But if I'm looking strictly at what is like written down, I Follies is objectively, I think, the most brilliant musical ever written. I have been thanking my lucky stars since I saw it that I got to see the I think still the most recent revival with Bernadette Peters and Jan Maxwell, which was just phenomenal. And I got to see that at the very last performance on my
Wow.
birthday. And when I tell you that like all the gays in Manhattan were in that theater that night, because every time every single person made their entrance in that first number, the standing ovation, all like it was stopped the show cold. The show is it's a long enough show as it was. That night it was like 4 hours long. It was, but oh my god, just a show that is all the about memory and our past selves, but also about theater and the power of performance and how doing theater together can bond people in a way, and how we're always chasing the ghosts of our younger, better selves. I love it. Another one that just good productions leave you in awe. Bad productions, you can see the sort of flaws, but still the beauty and complexity of the thing. I don't think there's anything else in all the canon of musical theater that can match it.
Wow.
Rob, number two.
That's pretty high praise.
Beat that, Rob.
Beat that. I might as well just leave. No, I'm making notes because I haven't seen some of these musicals at all, and I'd love to see them at one point. So, like again, I mentioned Rent. I saw Rent very recently, like a few months ago, latest production at the Sydney Opera House. It wasn't very good. I didn't really enjoy it. So it's kind of put a bit of a bad color on the whole production. But when I first saw it on Broadway, when I was 20 years old, by myself, I was backpacking around the US and Europe after high school, before university, and I saw it. And Wilson Cruz was Angel, and I got to interview him many years later for Star Trek Discovery. Told him what I thought of his performance. We had a really great connection over that. It was really cool. I love the show. I thought it was really cool, and ever since it's become like, I think people overlook Rent. Oh yeah, Rent. Who cares about Rent? But when it first came out, I recall, I could be wrong, that it was looked at as a real milestone and a real breakthrough for something different.
It was
I'm always looking for something different.
Huge deal. Yeah.
Massive.
It was a
massive.
big deal.
And it was really good. And it was at the Nederlander Theatre for many, many years, did very, very well. And yes, that's my number two.
Tony, number two.
My number two is Chicago. I absolutely love that. I remember going with my grandparents to see the first national tour of the Broadway revival in 1997
Yeah,
with Jasmine Guy playing Velma and the great Charlotte D'Amboise playing Roxy and Brent Barrett as Billy Flynn. I have since seen many productions locally. I played Billy Flynn. It is my favorite role that I've ever played. And I think that show, I don't care if it's the 1970s or the 2700s, what that show has to say about celebrity and what and who we choose to make famous and the reasons why we make them famous, I think that show will never age.
Yeah, I agree.
There is a reason why that revival is still running, and why that particular show works with stunt casting because of
Right.
all those things you're talking about, Tony.
Yeah. Yes. Good point.
My number two is so my top two are Sondheim shows. And number two is one of the most bizarre things I think that Stephen Sondheim has ever been adjacent to, and that's Assassins.
Oh, I'd
Um,
love to see that.
You
the
would have this show as your number two.
the idea of okay, where it's going to take place in a shooting gallery, and all the characters are people that have either attempted to or succeeded in killing the president of the United States. Is such a weird thing, but oh my god, is it? I think it works. I for years I had only heard the soundtrack of the revival with Michael Cerveris and Neil Patrick Harris and Dennis O'Hare. Um, but the songs just got to me. So even before I actually saw it, I was completely in awe of the show. The idea that you have a ballad called Unworthy of Your Love, and it's a duet between
Oh my
John
god.
Hinckley and Squeaky from the Manson family is and it's chilling how beautiful it is. Um, I think the Ballad of Gateau is one of the greatest. Is one of my favorite songs of all time, and it has this new sort of meaning now because of the Death by Lightning miniseries that's on Netflix. That's all about the assassination of James Garfield.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
it's just and in the revival, they added a new song, "Something Just Broke," which I think is an incredible song. I really think it's a bizarre show, but it works, and I think the songs are they're also I think, and it's weird to say this about Sondheim songs, they're catchy, and you don't usually think of Sondheim songs as catchy. That's what you go to Andrew Lloyd Webber for usually, but for some reason these songs I find immensely good, and it's such a bizarre thing, but I absolutely adore it. All right, Dan, what's your number one?
So while working on the original production of Follies, director and choreographer Michael Bennett was so enthralled by the dancers of the ensemble that he said that he was going to make a musical about them. And he did. He got the public theater to fund it, and he brought 16 of the greatest line dancers on Broadway together to make a chorus line that grew out of conversations that they had in over the series of evenings and weeks and months, telling their stories of how they grew up, what made them fall in love with dance and the theater, what brought them to New York, what their careers were like. And they turned it into the biggest love letter to performers that has ever been written. I have had the privilege to perform in the show once, and even without the iconic Michael Bennett choreography, it still has in really incredible power to do that show on the stage, to be that connected to the history of Broadway, to the lineage of those performers is unbelievable. And whenever I watch it, whenever I see a production of it, you can do nothing but feel awe for the performers that they're able to make it through all of this. You're on stage for the whole entire show. You are never off. There's no breaks for like 90% of that show. And then once the ensemble leaves, you have the music in the mirror, which is one of the greatest numbers from musical theater ever written. And you have Paul's monologue, which, especially if you are gay, is just the most heart rending thing. And there's a reason why this show swept the Tony Awards and was the longest running show for years and years and years on Broadway. It's a perfect show that becomes all the more perfect because of how it came to be. The mystique around it only heightens, I think, how good it is. And those songs, my God, I can do that. What I Did for Love, Dance 10, Looks 3, Nothing. It is a score, another one that's just banger after banger, no skips allowed. It's my favorite show and always has been pretty much since I ever saw it.
Wow.
That's what it's all about.
That's
Rob,
something.
number one.
Okay, so my honorable mention is the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. I really love that show. But my
That's
number
a
one,
beautiful show.
it's a
I
really
love that
beautiful
show so much.
Highly recommend.
I took
It's
my
not
mom
well
to see that,
known.
actually.
Oh yeah, it's really good. But my number one is Hadestown, and I'll tell you why. So when it cleaned up at the Tonys a few years ago, I saw it. I saw Wait for Me, the big number, and I thought, oh, this is cool, but not for me. I'm not really into this. This doesn't really look like my kind of thing. And then when it eventually came down to Sydney last year, I said to the kids and Paula, hey, do you want to go and see Hadestown? And they were like, yes, yes, yes. They were really into it. Oh, okay, it must be a big deal. Saw it, realized why we go to the theatre. So you can see something at the Tony Awards on your TV and be like, that's cool, get the idea. But when you're in the theatre, and I think for this show in particular, it's so pacey, it's so brilliantly written, performances are incredible, the songs are amazing. Like, you can just listen to the songs without even knowing what the show is. And then that Wait for Me closing number, when you see it live, like I just never felt like that before in my whole life. And I've seen so many amazing things over my long 48 years, but I've never seen anything quite like that. And we then saw it again. We went back a couple of months later because it affected us so deeply and profoundly. And that song, that number, that show brings me to tears. And for a musical to do that to me, like with Black Soul, like honestly, and not Black Soul in a good way. I'm like, I just, Tony and I like to joke, we're just dead inside half the time. Hadestown is so fucking awesome. If you haven't seen it, seek it out. It is an incredible show. That's my number one.
Wholeheartedly agree.
I saw that on Broadway when I went up for my birthday to New York one year. I think it was actually 2019, and that's when I first met you, Dan, because we had dinner at that steakhouse with Matt and Nathaniel Rogers. Yep, yeah, it was
nice.
one of the best birthday trips I ever had until we went up and saw him married.
What a motley
Tony, what's your number one?
My number one is a deep cut, and it is the fabulous "She Loves Me." "She Loves Me" is if you want to talk about a score that is 100% perfection. Every song is perfect. Every moment is perfect. It's for those of you who are not familiar with this show. It's a show from the 1960s. Has been revived on Broadway several times. And if you've ever seen the Tom Hanks Meg Ryan movie You've Got Mail, that movie is an adaptation of The Shop Around the Corner, which was an old 1940s movie that served as the basis for She Loves Me.
Wow.
It's actually it's like a Swedish or Scottish play before.
It's Swedish.
Yeah.
It's Swedish. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that score is absolutely perfect.
Gorgeous.
There's not every character is perfect. Every line of dialogue is perfect, and every note is so pure joy that at the end of that show, you are smiling and grinning from ear to ear. If you want to see, you can find it. They did film the most recent Broadway revival with the late great Gavin Creel, Jane Krakowski, Laura Benanti, Fuck You Forever, Zachary Levi. That's a whole subject for a different podcast. And those of you that are theater fans know why I said Fuck You Forever. specifically as it relates to "She Loves Me."
Wow.
I
Tell
actually,
me about that
Let's
later.
not get started. Just don't get.
yeah, I actually played Kodai, which is the role that Gavin Creel played on stage. That was my second stage performance. Was playing the nasty, chauvinistic, woman-loving Kodai, which hello acting. Um, uh, and if there is a better theater song than Vanilla Ice Cream, um, especially as sung by the fantastic Barbara Cook, I have yet to hear it. It is a perfect show, and I love every note of it.
So the title song from that show was my audition song for years and years and
Really?
years.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Oh, really?
I
Oh
need
my
to
God.
I need to
And
look this
I
up.
love
I've
it.
never heard of it.
It's such
And
a
Tonight at
fantastic
8.
show.
Tonight at 8. Tonight
Oh,
at 8
Tonight at 8 is
was
good.
was another one. Tonight at
Yeah.
8 is the song that I used to audition for Into the Woods, because I figured nice patter type of song, anxious Baker.
Yes.
George is very anxious in that moment. Yeah, I love that show.
Also, my favorite Christmas song ever.
12
Wow.
days to Christmas, 12 days to Christmas, plenty of time to do your Christmas shopping.
Wow. That sounds awesome.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I do some honorable mentions. If I had a top 10 list, number 10 would be Urinetown, followed by The Full Monty, which I saw in London. That actually had Andre de Shields in it in London. I was
Awesome.
so fortunate to see
Wow.
that. The Band's Visit is a beautiful, beautiful show. Omar Sharif, Spring Awakening is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. I love the harmonies and everything on that.
Mm.
Q, number one is already been said. And Dan, you said a lot of great things about it that are absolutely true, and it's Company. I adore Company, and especially because of the 2006 revival with Raul Esparza and Barbara Wall. They filmed that for great performances, and it used to be watch it every night. Then they took it off, and then I was like, "Oh, how am I going to watch this again?" So I actually found a Blu-ray of it on eBay. I paid $60 for it, but it was worth it. God damn it! Raul, I love the way that production specifically is done, and even though we saw the one with Patti LuPone, when I think of Ladies Who Lunch, I think of Barbara Walsh. She's the one who I go to. But then again, Raul Esparza, especially "Marry Me a Little," um, and then "Being Alive" is I watched that. I could just watch that, and the power of that blows me away. And it's like you said, it's about how we connect with people, what marriage can mean, what marriage is in actual practice. It it says so much, and it is such a strange show with the way it's structured. It's vignettes. You don't really know, is it going chronologically or something, but it is so good. The songs are so great. Not Getting Married Today, anytime you get to see that performed live is a treat and a half. um and I absolutely adore that. And just, if you ever want to see something that's pure theater, watch Raul Esparza perform "Being Alive," and those last notes that he hits is like a freight train hitting you. It's so good. Um, so yeah, that's my number one. Um, Dan, thank you so much for joining us for this. This has been a really fun trip down Broadway Lane. We'll definitely
It
have you
was
back
my
at some point.
pleasure.
Um, Everyone, thanks for sticking with us after everything with the Oscars, and sticking with us for our thoughts on random musings about whatever may come across our minds. Subscribe, like, do all of that shit. And if you have anything that you want to either praise us for or send us gripes about, which I think that's a great word that it doesn't get used too often, griping at someone, which I normally think of with The Simpsons. Send us an email at wordsheaven@gmail.com. We'll read it. You can make us say Baba Booey for all we care. We will read it. And if you have any complaints related to me, call 202-456-1414 and leave a message with them. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.